Hey everybody, bit of a shorter video today because I wanted to talk about the Jennifer English acceptance speech at the Golden Joystick Awards from a few days ago. I already touched on this a little bit in my last video about issues that I got with the Game Awards and the way that they run it, but I wanted to talk about this in a separate video anyway because it's something that really took off online and is being taken advantage of to push division between fans of Expedition 33 through lies and total misinterpretations about the games industry and just life in general. Also a lot of cringe, a lot of it. So we're going to be diving through that, having some laughs along the way, but also getting serious about some disingenuously framed things and engaging in hopefully healthy discussion. Now, the Golden Joystick Awards are even worse than the Game Awards in terms of pretty much everything that I talked about in that previous video. They're much more driven by activism and other sad patheticisms that we regrettably have to put up with nowadays in the AAA side of the games industry. You do vote for what you want to win, but not everything gets nominated. If your game doesn't fit certain criteria that pleases the game journalists, you get filtered out. And these criteria get crazier every year. I'm going to be showing you some of that stuff later in the video. This is kind of where I call back to that last video where I said that other Game Award shows and entities out there are worse, and what kind of keeps things bearable in the Game Awards is likely Geoff Keighley and his team not letting all the game journalists and activists and, corporate big heads that they have as judges and juries go full with the management. That way, everybody's happy. They get to give their little awards to who they want, pretending like they're still important in this business, big publishers still get a spotlight, and Geoff Keighley gets to keep doing his show and hanging out with celebrities like, Hideo Kojima and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
You were in the game too.
Yes, I was in a game, yeah. Spy Hunter, classic midway game, 2006. I'm still loving my 3 out of 10 review from Game Informer, by the way. 3 out of 10.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Can you imagine, fellas? Can you imagine any outlet these days giving a game from a big publisher made with one of the biggest movie stars in the world a 3 out of 10? Anyway, as a too long didn't read type of thing for the previous video, personally, I just wish that he got rid of all the activists and made a real awards component, but hey, let's face it, at this point, in order to keep an award show like this going, Geoff Keighley either has to be a cog in the machine or sit in a room filled with sponsored shit like Doritos and Mountain Dew. And we know he ain't going back to that anymore. So it is what it is. But back to Jennifer English and the Golden Joystick Awards. So what happened was that she won the Best Performance Award for her role as Mael in Expedition 33, and with that she got up on stage to give her acceptance speech, since, that's a thing, and for some wild reason that I personally can't fathom, she decided to make it about her how do I put this early in the video without getting YouTube to send this into the shadow realm? She made it about her romantic inclinations, right? And the effects of those, of the activity that you get into when you practice the... You know what I'm saying? Like she made it about who she enjoys meeting in the back of an alley after a Linkin Park concert. You know what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm trying to reach here? Oh, screw it. She made it about her sexual orientation and her lifestyle and the joy that she gets as per who she bangs. I'll show you the clip in a second. This went on to spread like wildfire on social media. It was clipped by the Joystick Awards and a bunch of other people. It was shared by loads of folks and outlets. There's people online right now crying their eyes out at how momentous this apparently was. How brave and how much of a turning point such courage and valor represents out here in big 2025, as they say. And especially in the games industry, which apparently is very anti-gay and anti-women. This is the narrative now. Apparently, this is what it's like in the games industry. It's right there. Like, this isn't even me. I'm not making it up. This is what it is right now. It's the narrative that is being pushed as a result of this momentous speech. Because apparently the last 10 years in gaming haven't actually happened. Apparently every major company in gaming under the sun, and honestly others across big entertainment in general, totally hasn't been proudly and staunchly pandering to and supporting the LGBT for years. Apparently big online game franchises totally didn't push Pride cosmetics in their games. Bungie's Destiny 2 totally didn't do a charity fundraiser just this year with Pride outfits as well. Halo didn't do a bunch of gay outfits for the Spartans either. You know, Xbox, Square Enix, etc. You know, none of these companies have ever done these lovely exclusive Pride streams where they talked about, well, honestly I don't even know, because I didn't even watch them, to be honest. Literally zero interest when the panel looked the way that it looked. Funny thing though, one of those from Square Enix happened in October. So it isn't even like a Pride Month exclusive thing, it was literally just like, hey fellas, here's a gay stream for yous. Which I'm not even against, by the way. Like, I'm not even saying it's bad, it's fantastic. As far as I'm concerned, all good. I'm just not gonna watch it, you know, it's an offer that I can refuse. The PlayStation Store, you know, totally doesn't have its own Pride game collection for us to browse and pick fantastic games that directly push that kind of representation. Companies like Ubisoft and Sony definitely don't have their own LGBT Pride divisions, programs, initiatives, and departments. Like, nah son, all of this on screen right now, I photoshopped it. It's definitely not on their websites if you go check it out right now. Studios like Respawn from EA didn't take to the streets on Pride parades. Major game developer conferences where every major publisher goes to totally don't have their own presentations about how to queerify games efficiently and respectfully. More on that in a second, by the way, guys. And apparently, the fact that Expedition 33 is praised not only for Mael, but also for CL and especially for Lune, for being 3 fantastic, well-written and well-designed female characters, totally doesn't prove that what gamers really want most of all is, well-written and well-designed characters and great stories that leave external agendas at the door and just fully focus on giving us a concise creative vision. But come on guys, of course not. Apparently none of these things have ever happened. None of this has been going on. We just imagined all of this in a fever dream, or we just made it all up. Gamers are actually just a bunch of rancid animals, they hate women and are against gays. They're monsters, honestly. And the industry itself, all these companies, totally sexist and homophobic. And I know, shut up guys, okay? Just stop coping and admit the truth, boys, it's over. We've been exposed. So anyway, we'll be going through a lot of cringe and disingenuous nonsense like that, but also some responses to 1 or 2 comments from my own comment section in that last video. So let's not waste any more time on intros and contexts, unless you want to send a like my way or subscribe to the channel if you're new, and jump right in there. Roll the clip.
Mael embarks on this crazy journey. She chooses to leave a life that wasn't serving her, and I did that a few years ago, and I chose instead a life that was authentic, a life that was gay. I fell in love with a beautiful woman who's crying her eyes out right now. It's really funny. And I chose queer joy, and as a result of that queer joy, I felt safe enough to pour my grief and pain and all that nonsense and joy and love into this incredibly beautifully written character. And I am so proud of that, and I just want to thank Queer Joy for that.
So I'm gonna talk about this again, and for any viewers of the previous video, I'll do it a bit differently and expand on it a bit so that you're not listening to the same thing again. I thought Jennifer's speech was incredibly performative and forced. This is an industry that has been totally oversaturated with this kind of thing, this obsession with LGBT stuff to a political degree. I'll touch more on this in a bit. Outside of this purpose, I don't see what the hell happened here. There's just nothing about Mael that invoked evokes either queerness or sexuality of any kind. So seeing it be the focus of her speech was just weird. Like, what can I say? I just don't buy it. I don't buy that it was because of queer joy, because of getting down with her girlfriend, which, by the way, I totally approve of.
My favourite type of magic, lesbomancy.
That Jennifer here was able to capture Mael's character and deliver a great performance. On that note, that's all I gotta say, because again, funny clip from Witcher 2 aside, I truly don't have anything against homosexuality. It's just a thing that exists. I don't think about it. It's something people do privately, and that's it. I don't care about the identity aspect. I think it's ridiculous. And when it comes to pandering to it in media and events like this, it's tacky, it's performative, it's fake, it's cringe, etc. I much prefer Charlie Cox's approach. It carried so much more class and meaning. If you're not aware, Charlie, which of course is Gustav's voice actor, said that any recognition, credit, or nominations for his performance in Expedition 33 should go to his character's motion capture artist. That motion capture artist is Maxence Carzola. So, sorry if I butchered that. I can't read French, like at all.
Wait, what the fuck is this? Is this French? I can't fucking read French.
It is what it is. They tried to invade us in the 1800s and I'm not going to let that go. Anyway. The main reason why this is a bigger deal than usual is because in a lot of other big budget games, actors come in and perform everything for the characters that they portray, voice, movement, and facial capture, at least in the most important parts, which are the scenes. But for Expedition 33, the voice actors just came in to record their voices while the motion capture was done separately, which is probably really smart because recording full scenes always takes longer, and well, the longer the sessions you're hiring these big names for, the more expensive the game will get. This way you get big names with recognizable voices at a more affordable rate. So anyway, Max did a fantastic job and definitely deserves some recognition, but of course the ones that count the most and get those nominations and the celebrity status are obviously going to be the voice actors. So Charlie going out of his way to make a mention of that was a class act, certainly much better than standing up on a soapbox and going, "Oh my goodness gracious guys, I am so happy for all the nominations that I got. I have to say, I owe all of this to my partner Tris Marigold. She's actually in the audience tonight and she's crying. It's actually really funny. You know, Gustav, he's a very passionate man. He lost the love of his life in the Gommage and so his heart burns with the fire of ending this sadness and misery for all other heterosexual couples whose lives are being wiped away by the paintress year after year. It was through embracing my own heterosexuality and the straight joy that I feel as I wake up next to the woman of my dreams every morning after an intense night of banging that I was able to find the emotion and intensity to pour into Gustav. I want to thank my wife for this award. I want to thank all the pounding that we've done over the years, all the brunch dates at Olive Garden, and most of all, I want to thank Straight Joy, because without it, I would have nothing. Like, bro, do you see how retarded that sounded just now? Well, that's how the Queer Joy speech sounded too. It's just that if it's about straightness, we can be realistic and objective and just call it out like, "Hey buddy, that made no goddamn sense whatsoever." But if it's about the gay, then we gotta throw a party with confetti and cry about it like children. In my last video, in an attempt to paint how ridiculous the comparison to Mael's life experience was, I said something that some people in the comments got really mad at. I said that when it comes to being gay, it is in no way a comparable struggle to what Mael goes through and what prompts her decision at the beginning of the game, as was noted by Jennifer English in her speech. Like, fellas, I'm sorry, but heading off to die in an expedition that nobody ever returns from is not the same as being gay in America or England in 2025. Or 2022 or 23, whenever Jennifer said that she came out. LGBT stuff has been pushed for representation, normalization, and straight-up glorification over the past few years. Being gay, or at the very least being an ally of LGBT, became the zeitgeist. High-profile people like celebrities were getting cancelled, and I mean really cancelled, like fired and blacklisted, for passingly homophobic jokes that they had made over a decade ago, or for making a super lukewarm pronoun joke. Now, some of them did come back from it later, like James Gunn, others apologized like Kevin Hart for example, others are still demonized until today like Gina Carano, and others were too big and too rich to get cancelled, like Dave Chappelle. I cover more examples of cancel culture in other videos if you're interested, but for the sake of expediency and remaining on topic, let's move on. It's not to say that it's an easy road, it's not to say that you can have your own personal problems, of course you can, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the comparison to Mael and her story, which is not my fucking problem. That's what Jennifer English brought up, not me. This was the culture, and in many ways it still is, because anything that edges even ever so slightly away from it, such as me saying that I don't care about someone's sexuality, then that is enough for some people to deem it as phobic or bigoted or just very, very bad in general. And that's just me, some dumbass on YouTube. When it comes to high-profile people in the games industry or in entertainment or in anything mainstream at all, you can forget all about it. They would never do such a thing, otherwise that's it, their jobs are cooked. Still, despite saying this, I also address the reality of the anxiety and fear that it must cause someone to come out to their family and friends regardless. Because despite us having a culture that is much more progressive and pushes for the raising of awareness and acceptance of homosexuality, there's still the shock that comes from it, the shame that some parents or friends feel, the ick that some have, and even more so if they're very religious, as many Christians still see it as a sin. And this is because if we just drop the outrage act and we just get real, then the fact is that both things can be true. It can be scary and anxiety-inducing to come out to your family and friends, and simultaneously, it has nothing to do with what the fuck Mael does in the game, unless you're just bullshitting on stage and going for an abstract comparison. Sorta like saying that the outcome of having Taco Bell with chili sauce is the same as storming the beaches of Normandy in 1944. Like, we all know it's not, but hey, we can all laugh at the performative joke. The cringe comes from when it's not a joke and it's someone actually trying to compare things for real. Like, yeah, sure, an accomplished voice actress 2 or 3 years ago deciding to come out as gay and get a girlfriend is totally like the 16-year-old girl with the death timer and about to lose her only thing closest to family, deciding to face what was perceivably a certain death by heading out on an expedition that nobody returns from. Yeah, makes total sense to me. So anyway, besides this, the only other thing that I said was a bit of a joke, but that was totally serious. So not a joke as to what happens, just a fact stated in a humorous way to kind of lighten the mood, which was that it would make a lot more sense to compare this if Jennifer was a Muslim dude having to come out as gay in one of those hardcore Muslim countries. And I can't believe I have to explain this, but since there's so much misinformation and sugarcoating online when it comes to these countries and their cultures, the thing I'm referring to is how incredibly intolerant they are of homosexuality over there, to the point of it being a serious risk to your personal health. So if you're comparing, life-threatening situations like that, at least do it directly. But anyway, let's do the other comment now. I'll actually read this one. I was vibing all your points till you started shitting on my queen. All she did was say she is connected with the character and was able to put more into the performance because of her coming out and the trauma with that. See what I mean? I mean, trauma? Really? Do you want to compare traumas with the characters? That's what I mean. Like, that's what she did. I didn't do it myself, fellas. Don't get mad at me over it. Saying anything about being gay isn't woke. Gay people exist. Yeah, no shit, I mean, it's almost like I didn't do that. It's almost like I addressed it directly. It's almost like I understood precisely what they meant, but that it just has absolutely nothing to do with the complexity that is Mael's situation, and nothing to do with being able to act good. It's also almost as if I didn't mention the word woke at all. Not about the game, and certainly not about the person. I mean, what the fuck does that even mean? My point is, it's completely unrelated. and that's why it comes off as performative, as fake. And as stated in the last video, it's pretty obvious why. She was in a room where that is what sells. It's not the acting performance itself, it's not the game, it's none of that. For those people, it's none of that. Oh, for investors, oh, the performance of the game is very important, the money that it brings in, etc. But for those game journalists, nah, brother, they don't give a fuck about any of that. It's that precise thing, that precise moment that dips into identity politics nonsense that they care about. Notice in the video itself, they're not cheering or clapping for the game or the character, they only do so in that second sentence when they realize, oh, she's gay. This is a speech about being gay. Hell yeah, slay queen! Let me start clapping and yelling. It's funny because this has been their main problem with this game. It doesn't push or reflect the values that they wanted to directly. It's a game that is liked by, well, everyone. It's liked by us as well, people who don't like this kind of ideological bullshit in games. That's their main issue with this goddamn game. They want to praise it. They want to praise it so much because, I mean, look, they got characters, female characters in there. 3 of them. They're enjoyed, they're beloved by people and everything. They're supposed to be icons, but they can't be because, god damn it, they're just not gay enough and they're just not diverse enough. That's been their problem with the goddamn game. It's the same with the speech. If she just stood up there and she was just like, you know, the writers did such a good job, thank you very much for supporting me, you know, very good job, got very lucky, casted in this incredible universe, the director does such a good job, you know, it's incredible. If that was the fucking speech, or if she stood up there like Joseph Fares, like,
fuck the Oscars, you know? Fuck the Oscars! Fuck you! I'll tell you!
then nobody would clap. Or, you know, they'd clap at the end as a formality, like, okay, whatever, bitch, go sit down. But because she said gay, boom, the room erupted. And we all know why. And excusez-moi, you know, I'm sorry, but I'm going to point it out. She has the right to get up there and say whatever she wants. You are absolutely right on that. But I'm going to notice it and I'm going to call it out for what it is. It's unavoidable. It's the shit we see most of these days from game journalists and other activists in the industry. If you want more, I'll show you more with receipts in just a second. Just hold on for the last point of the video. And it is a damn shame for her to step up there and pander to that, because that's what's been screwing up events like these and gaming discourse since years now. It's the divisiveness and the incitement. Now you could say, well, people should stop taking the presence of gay characters or gay matters in games as a divisive issue and just let them be. And I would totally agree with you if not for this next part that we're about to jump into now, which is the message part of it, the agenda. As soon as it was exposed beyond shadow of a doubt that there are groups in the games industry who deliberately push this kind of social impact shit into games without a single care about the quality of those games, it was over for me. My patience ran out. I felt played like a damn fiddle. I felt that my tolerance, or whatever the fuck you wanna call it, had been abused. These activist groups don't care about stories or game quality. They don't even care about the goddamn studios they're working for. They only care about their quotas, and ultimately, they care about power. So as I see the quality of AAA games going down, as I see beloved franchises getting totally botched, as I see studios being shut down, and games that I was excited for getting cancelled or rebooted with some bullshit signaling in it, how am I supposed to not get mad? And as I see games journalism hide this for years, lying about it, and now defending it tooth and nail since they can't hide it anymore, sweeping concerned customers like myself into a group and demonizing the shit out of it, how am I supposed to not feel divided? Anyway, let's get into it. Next! So, there was a lot of rambling back there with loose comments, so let me just recap for a second. My main gripe with the acceptance speech isn't even a gripe, it's more of a pet peeve. It's like, I see what you're doing, it's cringy, it doesn't fit, nobody cares whether you're gay or straight, and that's it. Period. Nothing else needs to be said. She still has the right to be cringe and pander to the upper echelon of activists in the games media and studios. It is her prerogative. Even if it would have been far more respectable to talk about the achievement that is the game, or shed some light on the writers, or the director, or the motion capture artist who go by totally unknown despite their efforts in providing her with the script and design that got her to that stage in the first place. After all, no matter how talented you are as a voice actor, if a game sucks and if a story is terrible, you're cooked. But again, that doesn't matter. I understand what she's doing, I get it, it's her job, it is what it is, let's move on. But now, you could totally ask, well, if it doesn't matter, if it's not a big deal, if it's just something that is cringy or tacky or whatever, why make a video on it? And that's a legitimate question. I'm making this video because I find these kinds of discussions interesting and even helpful when it comes to understanding or tackling these subjects. Because this kind of sentiment is actually very reminiscent of how things were a few years ago, where I would feel the same way. I would hear something super forced for virtue signaling or other similar things, and much like this occasion where suddenly it's because of someone's sexuality that they're a good actor or whatever, even though the character itself has nothing to do with sexuality, they would make no sense either. And I would feel like it's really tacky or kind of cringy or things along those lines, and just let it be because, whatever. I'll just roll my eyes with a bit of a, oh you silly goose type of attitude and move on. But eventually that stopped just being tacky. Like, we all know where we're at. We all know how this became the main thing in massive franchises and producers like Netflix, Disney, Amazon, etc. Like, we all know the heights of cringe and the new forms it has taken, like casting Bella Ramsey as Ellie and giving her a scene where she asks her pregnant girlfriend if she's going to be a dad. The dad of a baby whose actual father just got cucked. We all know this evolved and established itself in a really pervasive and harmful way, where storytellers started shifting their priorities away from what mattered, and suddenly way too much attention was drawn to character identities and other bullshit that had to be outwardly representative of minorities or whatever, rather than interesting events, plots, and rich world building that separated us from our contemporary lives and offered us unabashed escapism in these games, movies, and shows. In other words, entertainment couldn't just be entertainment anymore. It had to be a foot soldier in the culture war. It had to help push the right kind of politics. It had to help, represent people and matters. Basically, it had to have social impact of some kind. We all know how this kind of thing was weaponized to cause divisiveness. You may not want to engage in the culture war, but eventually the culture war will come to you if you let activists keep doing what they're doing. Like, eventually they're going to get into something that you enjoy, and they're going to start changing it by co-opting it to fit their goals. It just is what it is. A little over a year ago, I was just some dude who never thought anyone would ever want to hear what I had to say, and who honestly had given up hope of having a channel in such an oversaturated platform and genre. But now, a few rants later about this pervasive ideological bullshit over the past year, after losing my patience, and here I am with 24,000 subscribers. The culture war came to me when all I wanted to do was play video games and have fun at the end of a workday. In that last video, I showed some examples of how Jennifer's speech is already being weaponized to try and imply that because she's gay, the game is now a woke game, and people like me, who speak against ideological influence in video games, can no longer praise it. This is obviously absolutely delusional, and these morons are just trying to snatch a W from what is now over 2 years of racking up L's, as games, movies, and TV shows that represent these ideologies and activism are crashing and burning. So yeah, I'm sorry, but that alone is reason enough for me to make a video about her speech and call out the bullshit that is already rising from underneath, even though yes, the speech is still just tacky and cringe. I am regardless still going to notice what just happened, and I'm going to point at the elephant in the room and keep a closer eye on projects that she and others are in, because I don't want another wave of bad content creamed up by retards who will unironically interpret this as to mean that Mael is either a queer icon or should be, because oh look at how cute and giggly and amazing this moment was at the Joystick Awards, as everyone gave a standing ovation at a woman announcing that she's gay. I don't want potential future games with excellent storytelling and authentic characters such as Expedition 33 to be tricked, influenced and corrupted into ditching whatever brilliant, original and fully self-contained ideas they have to replace them with diversity quotas plus whatever the fuck narrative devices are taught to developers at GDC panels like this one right here. Prismatic people, queer narratives beyond romance. Gee, I wonder what the f this is all about. Queerness impacts all axes of our lives, and players should be able to see this prism of experiences represented outside of relationships. Why? Attendees will learn about the many ways to experience queer narratives that sit beyond the exclusively romantic conception. Queerness is an umbrella of identities, and their stories deserve to be recognized too. Shut the f up. You don't deserve anything. You're not special. You're just gay, brother. Games aren't yours to shove your baggage into. Games don't exist to affirm you or represent you or do jack shit to and for you. And the same goes for me too. The things that haunt me every night before I go to bed.
So, I'm non-binary. Non-binary. I just said, and I'm going to use they instead of she from now on. I'm supposed to struggle with who I am? Even if I don't feel like I fit, even if I feel wrong? No.
Don't belong in a video game to soothe me. Any insecurities or quirks about personalities or issues in our lives or any personal baggages attached to identities or orientations or whatever else do not belong to be forced into video games so that we can feel better about ourselves or affirmed or represented or some other shit while everybody else gets taken in on the ride. This is insane. If anyone really is that down bad, they need therapy to tackle those things, and then they need video games to whisk them away to foreign worlds that they can get fully distracted and inspired by. That is what escapism is all about. A character's sexuality should just be a character's sexuality. This shit doesn't exist to affirm or represent anyone, or at least it shouldn't. When there's a hetero romance on screen, it's not validating straight people's existence. You know, it's not affirming the straight delegation. But these motherfuckers have gotten their brains so fried by identity politics and victimhood that this is all that they see. If they're watching Romeo and Juliet or the Titanic, they're not even paying attention to the story itself. They don't care about the story part of it, they only care that these are straight couples and therefore that's an attack on them. And the representation of the enemy. Oh god damn, this is f***ing pathetic. And it's even worse for non-sexualized characters, like some characters are just perceivably straight, but they're like it's not a romance movie, it's just a small detail about the character and that is enough to piss them off. And then if they do the same to a gay character, they don't want it. They want this right here. Queerness impacts all axes of our lives and players should be able to see this prism of experiences represented outside of relationships. This representation in mainstream media has been by and far-centered in romantic relationships, ignoring the many facets of queerness that made up the day of LGBT people. What are you retarded? You want to turn the whole game into this? Into the queerness of the character? This is why these characters don't work. This is why we don't want them in AAA. Because we'll be playing something like Dragon Age or Mass Effect or God of War or Halo or whatever it is, and the goal of these activists is to turn these stories, which are supposed to be hyperfiction, just having a good goddamn time, into how queer the character is and all of the different aspects of queerness that must be represented in modern media. Nope. No thanks. It doesn't sell. Nobody cares, bro. Like that's the key. Nobody cares. You want a good example of a gay character? Dion from Final Fantasy XVI, a fully fledged badass character who just happens to be gay. but isn't infected by this virus of affirmation, representation, validation, or any other retardations. It's just Dion. He has his goals, he has his personality, he has his story, and it's completely separate from his sexual orientation. He just happens to be gay. You want normalization? That's the kind of goddamn character that you need. Because again, here's the most important part. Nobody cares. I wish that this was understood above all. Nobody cares about what you get up to. Nobody cares, and nobody needs to be subjected to ideologically charged content or influential content in order to be forced into caring. It's just not going to happen. It's always going to have the opposite effect. You're going to make it worse. Especially because it's always in major video games and major franchises. It's always where it ends up because these activists are narcissists. And a lot of them are also moved by money. So they can't just have this kind of thing exist in smaller indie projects that are fit for their modern audience types, you know, fit for the people who live to see things like these represented in games, which are objectively a very small minority. In the indie market, this could exist and survive without a goddamn issue. But that's not enough, because that's not how activism works. So they want it everywhere. They want it in the mainstream, where it can reach everybody, where it can be on everyone's face. So where does it go? Well, besides Disney putting it everywhere, it also goes in Dragon Age, or it goes in Assassin's Creed. And then we get retarded characters like Tosh, who spend the entire game talking about contemporary identity politics and modern gender ideology in a game about dragons, demons, and darkspawn. And scenes like this absolute unit of a meme in Assassin's Creed Shadows, where they casually shove in a non-binary character for Yasuke to have a gay relationship with. Because of course. What are you expecting from the feudal Japan Assassin's Creed? This is what you get, this and that abomination of a Attack on Titan crossover that they just did. And so again, this is what I wish that they understood. We don't care. Nobody cares nearly as much as you do. Nobody needs or wants to be subjected to this re-education type of bullshit in video games or other media. It doesn't help you, it never has. In fact, it's only made things worse for LGBT identifying people. Acceptance and normalization were progressing steadily. Slowly, one could say, but steadily. Now it's regressing because of shit like this and the attitudes that come from it. I mean, you can't make this shit up. Look at the second panelist listed on this. Dani Lalonders. Remember her? It's the goober who didn't want any white people working at her studio.
I have a team of 21 right now for Validate. It's a pretty big team. It's a crazy big team for indie games. But who is your team? Validate has a team of mostly all people of color. We have no white people on our team. I did that because I wanted to create a safe environment. And I know the best way for an environment to be safe is to be around people who are just like me. And I'm not saying that white people in the industry are creating unsafe environments. I'm not saying that. That is not what I'm saying. I am saying that sometimes it is hard to work with white people because they think that something may be okay, but it was really a microaggression. And no one wants to deal with that while they're trying to make a game that they love.
Like, can we just, I don't know, can we just stop this shit altogether once and for all? Can we stop this culture? Ah, Daz, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. Nah, I don't think I am. This is exactly the same shit that was right there a few years back. The type of stuff that you just roll your eyes at and say, oh, let the poor girl be, she's just ecstatic to win an award. And hey, maybe she is. Maybe Jennifer English herself doesn't have any ulterior motives. Maybe she really just had a brain fart and made her own mountain out of a molehill, where apparently being gay is suddenly something special, unbelievable, and packed with ancient power that gives you the ability to read a script and interpret it better than a heterosexual fella. Who knows? It's a wacky, crazy world out there, fellas. But you can bet your sweet hazelnuts that other people in that room in that moment, and others on the internet watching this clip afterwards, do have ulterior motives and will be looking for any excuse to keep this ideological rot going in the games industry by propping up moments like this, speeches like that one, and actors like Jennifer, not for her acting ability, but because of the speech and what it represents, which is that aforementioned switch in priorities, where a character's story and writing no longer flows from what it's meant to be and instead gets filtered through lists like these that these companies use to make sure that it's politically correct, totally inoffensive, and being used to pander to identity groups, or represent something or other. This is lame, it's broken, it doesn't work, it turns my L's into Nahues and Gustavs into Tashes. At the end of the day, these people can shit themselves crying, screaming and whining, it doesn't matter, it does not change the facts. Expedition 33 is the success it is because it did what games used to do years ago, tell a goddamn story and shut the f*** up about everything else. Focus on the vision, put passion and quality at the forefront of their thinking, and build a merit-based team that had one main goal: make a goddamn banger of a video game, totally unchained from the politics and other nonsense that now creeps all over AAA studios. You know, with shit like this all over their pages. Look at it, what is this, a circus? No, seriously, like look at this and tell me, is this a video game company or an adult daycare center? If people who value their identity or sexuality above stories and fiction were the ones getting their hands on Expedition 33, it would just be another of many flops of the same kind that other AAA companies already push out the door, likely passed through one of those shitty narrative consultant groups like Sweet Baby Inc. too. Hell, maybe it would have been a Ubisoft published game and everything, you know, which is ironic since the director quit that dying company to go and make his own game in his own terms. But anyway, fellas, that's it for this video. Turned out to not be as short as I was counting it to be, you know, I ended up ranting, but it's fine. Some things may not look like they're a big deal, and maybe they're not, but we've seen them become a far bigger deal if we don't address them, so that's what I'm just going to do. To any huge fans of Jennifer English, you know, people who call her queen or whatever, I mean, look, man, it is what it is. But anyway, I hit 24,000 subscribers recently, so I wanted to thank you guys very much for that, and of course my heterosexuality. It is through the joy that I feel when I look at dubious pictures of Tifa Lockhart on the internet that I am able to pour all my trauma and emotion into these videos. So thank you to Tifa Lockhart, and thank you to my dear viewers. As always, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, it really helps me out in the algo, and subscribe if you're new. Also, let me know what type of joy gets you up in the morning. But watch your words or your comments will be yanked into the shadow realm as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.